All right, we made it through winter. Tough winter up here in Minnesota. So I just made a list of things that I do when I get my boat out of storage, preventative maintenance stuff basically, to make sure that I'm good in the lake first half of the year at least. So first thing I do is I check the tabs, trailer and boat. Got that stuff. I had to get tabs this year, no problem. Then I'm gonna check the tire pressure in my trailer. So I go 50 PSI, it says up to 60, 50 PSI in both my tires, and I do the spare. Then I'm gonna do my tire bearing grease. I have a bearing buddy. I pop the cap off and then I pump in some grease until the thing expands. Some trailers have fluid, brake fluid. I'm gonna check my fluid. I know it's good. I did it in the fall. You wanna make sure you grease all your pivot points in your lower end. There should be 2 on each side and 1 on the bottom. It's probably your gimbal bearing. New gimbal bearings do not need grease because they are sealed. Okay, now that I got my lower end grease points greased, wheel bearings greased, tire pressure checked, you can check your rollers too, but I do that without the boat on the trailer. Maybe check your lighting before your trailer too. I'm gonna uncover the boat. Okay, now that I got the boat uncovered, I'm gonna show you guys what I use. People have asked me underneath the tarps to make sure it doesn't cave in, but you're gonna wanna get a muff for your water, and when you put this on, make sure you're gonna run the water full blast. And you want to make sure you have a fully charged battery. So I get a new battery probably every 3 years. I'll bring it into a parts store and have them run it through a test to make sure it's got enough strength. I'll use it the first couple times out, probably no matter what though. So let me show you what I have that I use so the tarps don't cave in. That's kind of what I built. Again, just so the snow doesn't cave in. I made this when lumber was cheap. Before I even start my boat, I make sure I do a great visual inspection on your bellow boots in here. It's the rubber boots that flex when the motor goes up and down. You have 3 main boots: exhaust, main bellow, and your shift cable bellow. So it doesn't matter if your exhaust bellow is ripped, but you want to make sure you have no cracking or holes in your bellows because you will sink fast. Your shift cable, not so fast, but this main bellow here, on the top, inside, you'll sink really fast. So inspect that stuff. I put the trim up, make sure trim goes up and down. I'm gonna check it out. I have to get my flashlight on here. Make sure I do a proper inspection. So everything looks pretty good. And I use the trip up and down, nothing's dripping. The inside of the boat was dry as a bone because I tilted it up right, made sure the cover was right. Let's go inside, put the trim down. I'm gonna check the blower and the bilge. Okay, I have the water running, so I'm gonna do some other checks here. Horn, blower, and bilge. All running. Blower is probably the most important. I think legally you need a horn. So now that the trim is all the way down, I'm gonna do a visual inspection here. Since I changed the lower end oil in the fall, I'm gonna have to add some lower end oil, not a problem. I'm not gonna use it without doing that. Visual inspection, belt. There was no water in the bottom, probably no cracks. Looks pretty good. I have all my battery connections hooked up. Check your trim pump, make sure there's no water in there. I'm gonna give her hell. So before I go in, I'm gonna hook up the water. You wanna make sure this seals good around your intake water holes there on both sides. You want a really good seal. I'm gonna crank that water up to full blast after I get in there and do a visual inspection, and it's got to suck up all the water. Typically the first start of the season, I have to choke it, so I will. Make sure your kill switch is on. Pull this out. Oops, I gotta do it with one hand here, hold on. Got that ready to handle. I'm gonna jump in here, give her hell. Fuel gauge is going up. Voltage is high, trim is down. Let's give her hell. Tack gauge is working. PSI is working. You're gonna let it run for like 10-15 minutes. Make sure you don't overheat your engine. I'm gonna go back and check to see how the water flow is doing. Voltage is high. That's what we like to see right there. Good water flow. There is no water inside the boat. She idled out perfect after about 2 minutes. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna just hold down the clamps there to make sure all the water is getting in there though. It's flowing pretty good though. Let's see. It's lukewarm. It'd be a cold shower. Make sure you let it run for 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure it warms up good. Then I'm gonna put it in forward and reverse, because sometimes it'll die. Your shift interrupter switch may be triggered and your shift cable may be loose, or it may not. Your shift cable may be stretched or just bad. They go bad after about 15-20 years and they get sand in them, rust, the wires break off and fray, and if that happens, you have to replace your shift cable, otherwise you're gonna have a problem all the time. So overall, I think this was a successful first run. It just took a couple, I would say about 10 seconds for it to turn over and start. So I'm watching the temperature gauge, and I put it in gear a little early. I should have just let it rate a little bit, but it went into gear perfectly. Reversed, it almost died, but then I got it in right away. You have to let them warm up first time of the year, without a doubt. Everything looks good. Not bad for a boat, 2001. With 170 hours on it. It's looking good. Let it go for a few more minutes and call it a day. So as far as the pink coolant or antifreeze, it's biodegradable. Look on the jar. You can run it right in the lake, water, whatever, right in your lawn. It's not going to hurt anything. It's the green coolant for your car that's poisonous for animals and stuff like that. As far as an oil change, in a lower end oil change, I always do it in the fall. So I have separate videos for that stuff. If you do your lower end oil change in the fall, you're good. In the spring, you should do it every 100 hours, I believe. And it's in the engine also. So I'm gonna do another one though, just because I like to make sure everything is perfect in case any condensation got in the motor. I'm not gonna change the lower end oil fluid though, but I will do an oil change video and a water separator video, which I definitely think you need a water separator every spring. But I make sure I burn one tank, that way any condensation that got in the tank works through into the water separator. So thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. Have a good day. See you on the lake.